well, maybe my grandmother and grandfather are going crazy, But, but then all of a sudden here it was, all over the news that this, the owner of the house killed his wife and didn't even bury her, just wrapped her up. And could you imagine that?
Right, and that was what you and your grandparents and family members were experiencing, was probably that spirit trying to get a message out, trying to relay to you what had happened. But it's hard for them to communicate, so it gets misinterpreted as being something bad or something, and it probably wasn't. It was just they wanted they wanted to be revenged or their story heard.
Well, I don't know. Thank God I haven't been in that situation. And look at like Liz, over in Missouri.
Yeah.
Her house isn't that old, but she's on a farm. But there was a lot of Civil War casualties in her area, and she's been seeing some. She saw like that kid. It was in a hoodie, walking by the horse pen, and she thought it was one of the neighbor kids, and she took and it was no way. They could have gone any other way, but either back the way they went, which she would have seen them, or forward. Now, Liz was a deputy sheriff before she got hurt, and so she was in law enforcement for quite a period of time. So, she notices things. She noticed that she thought it was somebody wearing a hoodie and, like cargo pants, but poof, they were gone. But she's also having these strange things. Her house isn't that old. But James and Nick, like her bedroom door would open and close and slam shut, or the refrigerator would open and close by itself.
Yeah, that sounds like spirits from past trauma trying to get her attention to, relay their message or something. That's what it sounds like to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's better her than me. How's that?
That's why, you never know. You can have a brand new house, but who knows what the history is from the last 300-400 years, what had happened on that land. Land soaked in blood can really have a lot of energy there.
Oh, so right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, hey, Nick, our time is almost up. Do you have anything else you want to get out there while you're still on here?
Well, I would like to thank James for making sure I'm not going to sleep tonight with that last comment.
Oh, sorry about that,
because
Nick.
I feel that most nights when I'm in the truck, I always feel like there's somebody watching me while I try to sleep. So I appreciate that. That'll be good for sleep.
That's your grandfather. He watches over you. Trust and believe that.
All right, I will. I think that's about everything, fellas. And I will definitely get some pictures sent over to you, Gary, whenever
please do. Please do.
Home. And I had a great time. This was a lot of fun.
It was, and I really enjoyed you coming on. Hey, James, hang on the line. But, Nick, I want to thank you for coming on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Tell your friends about our show. And, while you're out on your truck and stuff, you can go on, if you can find the internet, you can listen to our shows. It won't cost you anything.
Absolutely, I will.
Okay, my friend. Well, you have a good, safe, drive.
Nice to meet you, Nick.
All right,
and always
thanks.
Remember, you can ask your grandfather to protect you. He's always there.
I'll remember that. Thank you both very, very much.
Okay, sir. You take care, Nick.
You too. Bye.
James, that, it's something that it always amazes me, like old farmhouses, old houses. And, it was kind of eerie when I caught on to like that room and that hospital bed in it, and then it really got eerie when he mentioned something like for shackles. That makes me wonder, maybe, you go back into like the 1800s, okay? Maybe 1870s, 1880s, even before that. And some of these farmhouses are way older than that, still standing.
Oh, yeah.
And could you imagine, like, maybe they had somebody in the family that was having a mental disorder, and instead of, maybe because they didn't have the money or they didn't want to have them committed into, one of those mental institutions.
Because of the reputation of the family or whatnot, they didn't want nobody to know. Or maybe, a maid had a child from the master when they shouldn't have been having sex and all kind of things. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so what they do is they either in the basement or up in the attic, you know. And I'm not going about those old creepy movies, but I mean, it was not quite common, but it did go on where they would basically put people in a room and forget about them and, you know, give them food, and that's about it.
Yes, and listen, I've been buying antiques and doing house cleanings for years, and you wouldn't believe some of the old houses I've been in and seen some stuff. On top of that, with all my investigations, too, the stuff I've seen. So they're not common, but they're not real rare either, especially the old houses. And like you say, the old farmhouses, they had rooms. Some of them even had hidden rooms and stuff. They would do that. And, you know, think about it. If somebody locked you in there, and you'd have that feeling like you weren't loved, weren't wanted, and just like thrown away like a piece of garbage locked in a room, you're going to have a whole gambit of negative emotions. And if you'd happen to die in there, you know your spirit's going to linger on and not going to be happy.
Well, not just that, but even if you took a normal person and put them in a little room like that, okay, and maybe occasionally even chained them up or whatever, right? How long would it take a normal person not to be normal and start going insane?
Wouldn't take very long, especially you would be hurt. And that would just, all them emotions would feed on themselves. So, yeah, it wouldn't take long for you to go south real quick.
Well, I guess the best thing for him to do is not disturb the attic at all, especially stay away from that room.
That would be my advice. Best thing he could do is just lock it shut and leave it alone. Either that or get rid of that bed. I'd probably get rid of that bed first.
Yeah, but if you can I ask you a question? By getting rid of the bed, right? That might not get rid of the spirit, and it might actually could manifest it worse. Not.
And you know what? You're right. That's a tough. Without actually going on site and getting a good feel of it, it's hard to say. But I would definitely say I would shut that room up and just leave it shut for sure. Yeah,
I'd put a padlock on it and put a big sign: "Do not enter."
Yeah, enter at your own risk.
Beware of the zombies. I don't know. I'd put something on that door.
Spirits may bite.
Yeah, or else. I mean, look at some of these people that gone into the old farmhouse. You know, like what's that house that was Amity? How do you pronounce that house?
Amityville.
Yeah, Amityville. Okay, they tried debunking that, but I heard one of the original owners on a talk show one time, and he started getting that weird feeling after moving in. Where even he wasn't the one that killed, his family, but he was another tenant after that. And he all started getting these hostile feelings, and they weren't getting, the wife and him weren't getting along. The children and him weren't getting along. It actually caused him to get a divorce, because when they moved out, something happened. And he said it was such a horrid place, but it took a while before it all started manifesting and kept getting worse and worse and worse.
Well, yeah, because what it does, it probably attached to the people, and then over time it got stronger and stronger and stronger, and it affects people's emotions, their moods, how they act, how they think, and before you know it, your family's fighting, you're splitting up, and all kind of disarray.
Well, yeah, I got a funny feeling sometimes these spirits can actually go in and actually control your thoughts and everything, or you're not even yourself. Yes. They're taking control of you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me tell you something. Last year alone, I dislodged 10 spirit attachments from 10 different people. And every time I did it, as soon as that spirit would leave them, it was so overwhelming, they would almost either pass out or get lightheaded or get sick, puke, and there's different symptoms, but let me tell you something. They definitely can tell and feel it, and then afterwards they feel great. They're back to their old self. They're thinking normally, and that's another thing. Say you had somebody that OD'd and died, and they were a drug addict, and now they didn't cross over, so they want to attach to somebody that may be battling some addiction. So now they're living vicariously through you and making you think and do drugs instead of quitting drugs. So it's a vicious circle. It can make you do bad things.
Well, I'm just wondering, too, like the story of what happened, that was really bad as what these spirits originally did with the original people. It took control of them where, they totally changed, where the husband would go, just a complete different person. and got hostile. The wife would get hostile, and then all of a sudden, all these people were, killed in their beds. And
absolutely, you become somebody you're not, act like somebody you're not. But here's the thing: you can't never convince a court of that, but it happens.
Yeah, that's the bad part. Somebody is possessed and does something bad. Okay, they weren't. How can I say it? I don't think they were in control of their faculties, but the court system doesn't recognize that.
No,
so
no, that's not going to hold up. You're absolutely right. That'll never hold up. But I'm going to tell you that stuff. It really does happen out there. It does, but it's not going to hold up. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, well, I could just see the jury trying for somebody for murder, and they were totally innocent, other than something took control of them. And after they were get out of that environment, then they were their normal self. And a lot of times, what I read and have read, they don't even remember what they've done.
That's true. They don't. I've even been on investigations, helping some other teams, and I've seen these team members. They didn't do the proper protections or whatever, and they get affected by the spirits. I mean, they totally get violent or act like they're being, I don't know, temporary possessed, whatever you want to call it, attached or being affected by these spirits. And I try to get them outside right away, and a lot of times, as soon as they get outside, they it wears off, comes off of them. But I've seen them affected. It's and it happens. It happens.
Yeah, and what's really bad is they can follow you home and follow you to work, and manifest on you, and that's the bad part.
Yes, they can follow you home, especially somebody. And I think Nick's got a little bit. I think he has a little bit of psychic abilities. I can just feel it, and so he's going to be like a beacon of light to him. I believe that's why he's seeing them on the road, at truck stops, and all over, hitchhiking. Because think about it. Usually, if you don't have psychic abilities of some sort, you're not going to see that as much as he has. And I think that's why he's attracted. They're attracted to him. So you gotta be careful. There's spirits everywhere. There's more spirits walking around Walmart than anywhere else. I'll tell you, seriously. You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. They will follow you home. You're right.
Well, yeah, I hate to say it. They could be in another dimension and we don't see them. Could you imagine how many people are walking around, or not people, but ghosts or spirits or whatever you want to call it, or, they're probably everywhere, because look how many people have passed on and how many people didn't go to the light.
That's right. And there's a whole gambit of reasons why when somebody passes over, they won't cross over, because maybe they're afraid to go to hell, or maybe they're attached to something, or maybe they still have unfinished business. There's a whole gambit of reasons, but whatever, if they don't cross over when their window comes, now they're stuck as an earthbound spirit, and after a few years, they can get angry or frustrated or desperate and try to any way they can to get your attention. They might scratch you, hit you, push you, or break something, but they might not be mean or nasty. They're just trying to get your attention. So yeah, definitely get your chance to cross over. You can always come back. No,
you're right. And, Eric just says that spirits don't just wear off when you go outside. Hey,
sometimes
what?
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. I mean, you never know. Some do, some don't. I've seen people get attachments and go home with attachments. This stuff's no joke. It just isn't.
Oh, yeah. What else can a person do to protect themselves from that?
Well, whatever your higher power is, you need to grip it and go with it and have a lot of faith in it. And you need to say your prayers before you go in and after. And whatever it is, you need to use that. Also, me personally, I use that, and I use crystals, and I use less seeds and white light. I use it all. I got all my bases covered. But whatever it is you feel comfortable with and you have faith in, you need to go with that and use it. Don't forget to use it, because their spirits are always, they're right there waiting for you to just drop the ball once, so they can, some of them are nasty, they're going to latch on to you.
Oh, yeah. That's the point. Now, how can you actually protect yourself? I guess we're just guessing at this, but what can you actually do to protect yourself of getting, attachment?
What I use. I mean, I know what I use. I wear a black tourmaline crystal. I wear a pink